So let's talk a little bit about why we think people should get involved in this. Dave, you started off by saying it's changed my life. So you obviously had a really strong, positive experience of this. So why do you think other people should be doing this?
I think because it brings you in contact with a vast range of different ideas and different concepts which normally I wouldn't come in contact with. And what's more, especially at board level and in research teams which I work with, you get these ideas discussed. And what surprised me at board level was that one researcher would say, I scored this particular proposal quite low, but having heard my colleagues on the panel, I'm going to raise my score or even lower it. And the idea that people, experts in their field, can actually change their minds was actually quite something for me. And the idea that, I mean, one phrase I kept hearing over and over again was, what is the evidence base for this? And that's one thing I think that is worth getting involved for. It allows you to look at life, if you like, and look at what the evidence is for various statements made by politicians and in newspapers. They bring it down to evidence, and that's what the board's all about. And that's why I would certainly recommend that people get involved. It opens your mind.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Sophie, what do you say to your friends, young people? I mean, because it wouldn't necessarily be about, let's go down to do some reviewing tonight. That's not what you say.
Not usually. It's a funny one because, again, hardly any friends are involved in anything like this. And so I'll explain something that I'm doing and they'll have no idea what I'm talking about. They'll just be like, oh, what are you doing going to such a place? Well, who are you talking to now?
Yes.
What's going on? And I don't know, I think it's something that's been really kind of interesting in that context and has maybe broadened my mind a little bit. Not to put a downer on young people, because, I think we are pretty good a lot of the time.
I think you are. Yeah.
But I think it is, quite easy to, maybe be a bit closed off to the world sometimes. Maybe I'm at university at the moment, it can be quite easy to get swept up in university culture and all that kind of thing, and not see past that. And so this kind of gives me insight into a different kind of world, and I'm still able to do all the normal stuff all my friends and I do, as well as doing some work that I genuinely believe is important at such a young age as well, I suppose.
Sure. Lulu, do you feel as though you're making a difference? Is that something, a reason why people should be doing this?
Yeah. And so I think I bring a different perspective into it. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's, people should be involved because it's quite empowering as well. As I sort of touched on before, there's, certain groups that are more likely to get certain illnesses and long-term conditions and things like that. And it must be quite daunting to kind of think, well, this is what I'm going to end up. This is what research says. I'm going to die younger. We're going to get type 2 diabetes and it can be quite depressing sort of thinking about it in that way, whereas you sort of think, okay, well, this is some research that's coming out and these are all the new big ideas that are out there, and you're in the room with researchers, professors and kind of statisticians who you wouldn't normally be in contact with in day-to-day life. And so to have that, people from sort of different backgrounds and different sort of life kind of outcomes to sort of come together and kind of co-produce and look at a study and say, well, look, this is important work. We all want the same aims and the same goals, to get to somewhere having better services. So yeah, I think it's important to be part of that.
Yeah. And both you, Lulu, and you, Rose, we bring a carer's perspective, and I think the carer's perspective is something we still don't hear enough of. And not to say that it should be more than but we don't hear enough of their carer's perspective, and it's so important, especially with the sorts of issues we're dealing with in society now, isn't it? We need that more and more.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. I in the 10 years that I was caring, I found that my mother went through a whole range of health and social care services, and I obviously learnt an awful lot during that time, but it was important that I brought my knowledge as a carer to the health professionals who were looking after my mother, because in the end, I hesitate to say it, but I probably knew more about my mother's condition than they did. And I think in terms, again, when people are doing research, very often the carer is going to need to be involved if they're looking at people with complex conditions or people with dementia, and the sorts of issues that affect older people or even younger people with learning difficulties. A carer perspective, I think, is very important.
Yeah.